We're going? Okay. Hi everybody. Welcome to another edition of Cooking with Greg. It's been a while. I hope that you've all been well. I've missed you terribly. As you can see, Lily and I are in yet another location. We left Lily's parents' house in beautiful upstate New York. Joe and Kathy, hello if you're watching. Thanks for letting us stay there. And now we are at my parents' house in Southwest Ohio. We went down in a straight line, brought food with us, and we just stayed in the rental car. We lucked into a really nice upgrade. We were in a BMW SUV, very exciting. It had massaging seats, and heated and cooled. So we were massaged the entire time down, and we got out with very supple glutes and lumbars. So if you ever are going to accidentally get an upgrade on your car, then I recommend one with massaging seats. It was quite nice. So today we are going to make a dish that I love to make and I think I'm pretty good at, and some people are very intimidated by, which you shouldn't be, because it's easy and it's delicious and it's fun, and it's risotto. We're making risotto, the famous Italian rice dish. And for those of you who are cooking along, let me tell you what we are going to be using today. First of all, we have 1 cup of arborio rice. 1 cup of arborio rice. Arborio rice is the rice you got to use. It's a special Italian rice that has a short grain and is very absorbent. You need this because the risotto is going to be sucking up a lot of liquid. If you make it with non-arborio rice, you're going to have some soggy, crunchy risotto that doesn't taste right, and you're going to be sad. And we've got enough to be sad about right now, so let's be happy. Let's use arborio rice. 1 cup. You're going to need 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. You are going to need 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. You are going to need, let's do the essentials first. 1 cup of dry white wine. We're using an Italian white wine today. Everything is very Italian right now. I'm even wearing my Italian underwear. You'll have to take my word for it. This is Pirapan, which is a Suave Classico, 100% Garganiega from the traditional region of Suave, the initial borders of the DOC, and it's 2018. When you're getting a Suave, watch out. You want to get one that's a Suave Classical that's 100% or a very high percent of Garganiega, because there are low quality Suaves out there that will have a high percentage of Trebbiano and they're very bland. A Suave should be a nice, crisp, delicious, mineral-driven Italian white, which this is. So I have some for the risotto, and I have some for myself, and I have some for Lily. Cheers, everybody. Cheers. Make sure that you get the YouTube people too. Cheers, YouTube people. And yeah, this is the best thing about cooking with wine, is when you have extra, you get to have a little bit while you're going. That way, if you mess up a little, you won't care as much. So we've got 1 cup of dry white wine. We have 2 cups of chicken stock. I like to make my own stock. This isn't stock I made. I didn't have the time or the opportunity. This is actually from a high quality bouillon, so that's fine to use too. Or you can use either canned or boxed broth. If you're using any of those or making your own, I recommend low sodium. This is a little higher sodium, and we are putting some Parmesan and some bacon in tonight's dish, so you're gonna have to watch the amount of salt that you add. So you got your chicken stock, you got your glass of white wine, onion. We're gonna need a ½ cup of onion. I have not diced the onion yet because I figured some of you might not know how to dice an onion, and I can show you how to do that the quick and easy way. Now here's where we get a little controversial. Some people might not be happy about this. In fact, I know some people aren't happy about this, but hey, I'm not a chef, I'm not Italian, I'm an unemployed sommelier, and I do things my way, and I like garlic, so I'm going to add some garlic to my risotto. If your Italian grandmother is rolling in her grave, I'm sorry, but we're garlic people, we like adding garlic. Think of it as a flavoring element and not an essential if you want to try it and you're afraid that you're flying too much in the face of tradition. Garlic, it's tasty. Put it in your risotto if you want to. We also have some wild mushrooms. This is a mix of royal trumpet mushrooms and oyster mushrooms, because those are the mushrooms that looked best at Jungle Jim's, which is sort of a catch-all amazing supermarket in Ohio. If you're in Southwest Ohio, go to Jungle Jim's. Here we have some Parmesan cheese, some grated Parmesan cheese. We're going to put that in the end. I like to put a lot of it. This is probably a little over a cup. Put as much as you like. I do recommend fresh grated Parmesan cheese if you can. If you're using, pre-grated is fine. If you're using dehydrated, it might not melt in and give you the right texture, but if that's what you have, it'll still give you nice flavor, so don't get too hung up about it. Any Parmesan cheese will do. This is Parmesan Reggiano, though. I mean, we're making up for the garlic by using good Italian cheese.
Jill says hi.
Hi, Jill.
Taylor says, hey, alliums are alliums. Garlic, onion, it's all the same.
That's right. I like your spirit, Taylor. I hope that you've decided on a knife that you might like. And Jill, I hope that you're enjoying.
Wrong Taylor.
This is. Oh,
Taylor
I'm sorry.
Tobin.
Oh, Taylor Tobin. Oh my goodness. Just because you mentioned Jill and then Taylor Tobin. Right. Yes, you're right. Well, that makes sense from Taylor too. She is quite a food expert. She's our friend who is an excellent food writer. Freelance. You can look for her work all over. So bacon. We're putting in bacon today. Why not? Bacon is delicious. I guess pancetta or guanciale would be more Italian, but we're in Cincinnati, home of American pork processing. So we're using good old applewood smoked American bacon, America. All right, I think that was all of our ingredients. You're gonna need a frying pan, and you're gonna need a medium-sized pot.
We love you too, Aaron.
Oh, which Aaron?
Susan.
Oh, hey Aaron, how's it going? Yes. Oh, I love you dearly. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna actually start off by taking these mushrooms and putting them in a dry pan on low heat, medium low, and I am going to dehydrate them a little by cooking them down for a few minutes. So you might want to get these started first. Just throw your mushrooms right into the pan, and that way it's going to take out excessive moisture from the mushrooms. You don't want to add it when you throw those into your risotto. So those are going to get cooked down, and when they're nice and starting to dry out a little bit, then we'll take them out, and we're going to put in the bacon, cook the bacon in there, and then we'll recook the mushrooms in the bacon fat. Waste not, want not, use everything you got. Let's see. I am going to show you, for those of you who don't know, how to dice an onion. Take your onion, take your sharp knife. This is my Shun left-handed kitchen knife, because I have left-handed everything. Left-handed kitchen knife. Oh, and hey, look. This is the cutting board I'm using, which is a beautiful, I think this is walnut cutting board, all end grain. My father, who's downstairs in his wood shop right now, made this. So if you like this and you want one, let me know, because I can probably get you a good deal on some cutting boards. Look at this. There's all kinds of beautiful end grain cutting boards, and we can make them to any size or shape you want. We have lots of projects that we're doing while we're here. I've been cutting down trees and hauling them out into the woods. That's been a lot of fun. But today we're cooking. Anyway, but cutting board, you want one? I'll get you a nice deal. So, Lily, you can see me when I'm up to this point, right?
Yeah.
All right. You gotta very carefully balance your cutting board, make sure it's nice and balanced. I just want to bring this where people can see it. And you just want to cut the ends off your onion. All right. We only need a half a cup for this. I'm just hearing my mushrooms sizzle away. Sounds like they're maybe on a little too high a heat. You don't want to burn them. You just want to take as much moisture out as you can, low and slow. And
Nicole says hi, y'all.
Who's saying hi?
Nicole.
Oh, hey, how's it going? Let's see. And I'm going to compost those later, but for now I'll just throw them in the sink because I don't have a composting bag with me. And just kind of cut your onion in half. These are huge onions. You don't need this much. Like I said, just a half a cup. But I am going to be, truth be told, I'm making 2 batches of risotto today. This one is going to be utilized for our arancini tutorial tomorrow, and the other one is going to be for dinner tonight. So right now, this is round 1. Just for your benefit, round 2 will be a little bit later. And I hope that you'll all join me for some risotto, for some arancini tomorrow, because that's a great thing to do with your leftover risotto. Yeah.
Megan says hi, cooking babies, and my mom says hi, guys.
Hi, oh my goodness. Well, it's great to see everybody or hear from everybody. Let's see. So you just take off I didn't really say what I was doing. Take off the papery outer layers of the onion. Try to remove as little of the actual good eating onion as you want. And you're gonna basically just slice it as much as you know I'm cutting it into a rough dice, which is maybe about a half-inch segments down the side of the onion. All right. Then once you have it sliced one way, then you're gonna slice it in approximately the same size sections down the what would that be? The width of the onion, right? So I cut down the height. Now I'm cutting down the width. So now your work is pretty much done for you. You just take your sharp knife. Hopefully that's sharp. It's sliding along. Maybe I should have trued it out before the session. And just cut it so you got a nice dice. That way, you don't have to cut slices and then cut it again and cut it again. All your work is pretty much done. You want to go through and make sure that everything did cut all the way through, because you want uniform cuts for even cooking. And that should be at least a half a cup. I got my half cup right here. Let's find out. That piece is a little big. Let's get that out of there. Okay, this is making a mess. There are 2 dogs in this house, so hopefully they don't come over and try to eat these, because onions are bad for dogs. They make them anemic. Okay. Well, we have a half a cup of, let's make it a heaping half cup. I like onions. Yeah, nice. Half a cup, heaping half cup of what you might call a fine chop or a rough dice of onions. Let me get the rest of this out of the way. I'm going to put that on a little plate. Save it for later when I have to cut onions again. All right. This was a good onion. Didn't make me cry. Oh, that's nice. I'll put this on the plate too. Oh. I haven't been drinking yet. Let's see. All right. So there's my onion. We're gonna get my mushrooms are doing well. They're starting to dehydrate a little. As they dehydrate, they'll stick a little bit to your pan. That's okay. Just free them up with your spatula of choice. I'm using a silicone spatula because this is a non-stick pan, and I don't want to ruin my mother's pans. It won't flip. Get them redistributed. There you go. Now I'm gonna prepare garlic. I don't know why I brought this over here. I gotta bring it back over there. Need a little more wine. Cheers. A Garganiega. Much better than Trebbiano. Alright. In this application. So, garlic, you just want to cut off the little woody end of the garlic, right? You don't want that. That's no good to anybody. And just crush it with your knife, because then you can just peel your skins right off. There you go. It's super, super easy to get the skins off your garlic. I used to struggle for years before I realized you could just crush them. Now, since they're smushed, they're already small enough that you want to, that you don't really have to slice down the height of them. You can just chop them up, dice them. I do a finer dice on my garlic than on my onions. I recommend you do the same. All right. So that's one clove done, and now this one's kind of in a bunch of weird little pieces. But that's okay. I'm not going to let it bother me.
So, honey, can you clarify for the garlic? You hadn't cut it earlier, right? So you're cutting what you need now.
Yes, correct. I'm just cutting it so people can see that, for the onion, the dicing technique, for the garlic, the smushing technique. Just in case people didn't know. I'm sure that most people watching did, but some of you may not have. And it's a fun thing to know. It saves you a lot of time in the kitchen once you figure this out. I'm just going to go over quickly, make sure that it's all uniform, roughly, and throw it in my little pinch pot. Okay. Now, that's going to go in the compost. I'm done with my knife for now, and I'm done with my cutting board for now. I'll put those up over here, and I'll grab them later. All right, so garlic done, onions done, mushrooms reducing away, starting to dry out, looking good. Now.
Can you show us what the mushrooms look like?
Yeah, well, right now they don't look like much, but yeah, they're not very uniform size. Oh, well, that's okay. But anyway, they're still just cooking down. It's going to be a little while. That's why I started them first. They don't have to be done until the risotto is done. The garlic or the mushrooms and the bacon and Parmesan cheese go in last. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to light my side burner here, put it on medium heat. All right, put it in pot. Now, you might want to come over. Well, you can come over in a second here. This is, you're going to take your fats, your 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, and your 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter, and just dump them in. Dump them in together. It's nice. The oil, you know, probably would work on its own, but the butter adds a nice little bit of richness. So I like to use a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of butter. Now you're going to let that melt down until the butter is starting to boil. No, or not boil, you know, but just bubble up a little bit. Once it starts bubbling up a little bit, then you can start your cooking. And that will be good. Anybody have any questions so far? Other than the questions I've heard. I could stand here and drink wine for a little while. Look at me grabbing wine by the bowl. Jeez. I'm supposed to be a wine professional. What's up?
Gennelson says hi, Greg. Gennelson?
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Hey, how's it going?
Sorry if I butchered your name.
Yeah. How you doing? I hope everybody is having an all right time. I know that the country's starting to reopen a little bit. I don't know who has to be back at work. Lily and I obviously are displaced New York restaurant workers, so it's going to be a little while before we're working again. But for those of you who have to go back now, I hope you're being careful. I hope you're being safe, and I hope you feel comfortable. Don't do anything that makes you feel, as I was told before I went to college, don't do anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. You know, just stay safe out there. Okay, so you see the fat in the pot has started to come to a little bit of a bubble. Not too much. You don't want it too hot, but enough so that when you throw your onions in, which I'm doing right now, start by just tossing your onions right in that pot. All right, you can give them a little stir. I'm using the same spatula as my mushrooms because, you know, it's all going in the same place in the end, so a little cross-contamination here isn't going to hurt anybody. So, you got your onions in there, and they are bubbling away, softening. You let your onions soften for a couple minutes, like maybe 1 minute, and then throw in your garlic, and you're going to let that soften for another minute. And then we're going to add our arborio rice. Lily, you might want to bring these over right now, just so that we can take a look at the onions boiling away, or not boiling, but softening away in your little risotto pot. I got some mushrooms in there. I'm not too upset about it. Okay, so you'll see they're going to start to soften up. They're going to start getting a little aromatic. This is a great meal to make. Every step of it smells delicious. You got your beautiful woody wild mushroom smells. You got your buttery smells, your onion smells, your winey smells. So if you are a person who appreciates the aromatic aspects of life, such as I, then it is going to be a smell sensation that may in fact make you say, oh la la, if you're Joe DeForest. Again by the bowl. These glasses throw me off with the cut. I mean, they're very pretty, but they're not, I'm used to having just a narrow stemmed wine glass, you know? Let's see. So, my onions have been cooking away. They're starting to look soft. I'll throw in the garlic. Garlic, as I'm sure many of you have experienced, has a tendency to brown up and burn faster than onions do. So you want to keep an eye on it as soon as you introduce your garlic, because you don't want You don't want it to burn. You want to mix it in nicely. You want to keep an eye on it, and you don't want your onions and your garlics. You don't want your aromatics here to burn or brown at all. You just want them to get nice and soft, as you don't want burnt flavors in your risotto, and you don't really want toasted flavors like that in your risotto either. So just nice soft garlic and onion. Keep an eye on your temperature. I'm on a gas range again, which makes me happy because that's how I normally cook. All right. So the onions and the garlic are looking pretty soft. You can always take out a little piece and give it a try. Well, it's starting to cook down pretty nicely. I'm gonna wash my hands. Hygiene in the kitchen, especially in this day and age. You know what I mean? Nice clean hands. Let's see. These mushrooms are getting a little bit, you'll see, I'll show you. They are cooking down. You'll see they're dehydrating a little bit. They're getting a little bit of color, but you know, really low and slow. It's one of those things like when you're cooking a duck breast or something. You have all the time in the world, you don't have to rush it. You want to get the water out, but you don't want to burn them. You don't want to add burnt flavors. Okay, speaking of not wanting to burn or brown things, I think that my onions and garlic are soft now. I'm going to throw in my 1 cup of arborio rice. Okay, and you throw in your rice, you give it a stir, and make sure that the onions and the garlic, if you're using it, all get mixed in nicely and everything's even in the pan and well distributed. Can you see that? Here, I'll show. Okay, you probably don't want to take it off heat, but I just did because I'm sacrificing the expediency of my cooking process for your education. So you want it nice and mixed in, you want the garlic and the onion mixed in, and you are going to let this sit for another couple minutes until you're going to notice that the outsides of the grains of your arborio rice are going to start turning clear, and that means that the oils, the fats are getting absorbed into the starches of the rice, and you're getting that nice penetration of flavor. So once all of your rice has clear edges, it's a pretty good indication that it's going to be time to start adding your liquids. And you want to make sure especially that your rice doesn't burn. You don't want burnt rice. You just want to give it a couple minutes, and you'll see pretty soon. I don't know if we have a quality enough camera, but Lily, if you want to come over again real quick, we can take a look. And you'll see the outer edges of all this rice is starting to get clear, and you'll just see clear edges and little grains of white in the middle, which means you're getting the absorption that you want. And if it's browning, throw in your liquid. Throw in your liquid, but hopefully it's not browning yet. Hopefully that we have got it on the right temperature. Just around medium is fine. Okay? So, here we go. A little more water. My mushrooms are getting so they're just about done. And you don't have to completely dehydrate them. I just like to take out a little bit of liquid so that they don't ruin the texture of your risotto. Because I mean, risotto is a pretty not that difficult a dish, but I think the reason why it earns its difficulty, its reputation for difficulty, is because a lot of people don't quite get the texture of it. You don't quite understand it, or maybe you haven't ever had it where it's quite prepared right. I was very lucky that I learned how to make risotto when I worked at a restaurant called English is Italian. And my good friend Jason Potter showed me the right way to do it, although he is mortified that I put garlic in it. And Dan Mitchell, also my old roommate, gave me some pointers. Okay, now this is in danger of browning, so I am going to pour in first my cup of white wine. Now you'll see, so not everybody uses white rough wine. Some people go straight for the stock, but I think that if you want your risotto to have a great flavor that people really, a couple things did burn a little bit. I ignored my own advice, but it's very, very little, so I'm not really gonna fuss about it. But when you look in the pot again, you might say, "Hey, what's that brown stuff?" And I don't want to lie to you, but it's barely any, and it should be fine. Whatever. I'm happy. My self-esteem is intact. So anyway.
It says Rachel Ray, LOL, with wine knowledge.
Who says I'm Rachel Ray?
Jonas.
Oh, hey. Well, I do have a big head, which Rachel Ray does as well. Although I don't think that she quite has the quarantine beard that I do. This is, I promised Lily when we both got laid off that the entire time that we didn't have jobs, I wasn't going to trim my beard. So I thought maybe that would mean mid-April, possibly the beginning of May, and now it's gotten into who knows territory. So as you see me, I'm going to look wilder and woollier as we go. My hair is long, my beard is long. I'm going to look like the It's Man from Monty Python Flying Circus before this thing is over. But that's fine. It makes Lily happy, right, hun?
Yes.
Yeah, she likes it when she can't see much of my face. So, anybody else growing a quarantine beard or doing any letting yourself go, physical, upkeep wise? You know, women not shaving your legs, what have you? More power to you, and I'm right there with you. Let's now is the time to unleash your inner dirty hippie. Although, be clean in the kitchen, hygiene, wash your hands. I just touched my beard, I guess I should wash my hands. It's a good habit to stay nice and clean. Obviously, those of us who have worked in the restaurant industry are always aware of when we've touched our faces, and you have to clean off your hands.
Jill says mountain man, and Kat says like a Wookiee.
I can't make Wookiee noises, but I will tear your arm off if you beat me at that little game that they have on the Millennium Falcon. I can't remember its name. It is it the 4th today? It's May the 4th, right? So it's Star Wars Day. Yeah. Looking forward to the new Star Wars film that's going to be directed by Taika Waititi. That should be a fun one. Okay. I am satisfied with the amount that my mushrooms have been cooked down. So I'm going to take these up. Now, Lily, I can't take this off the burner, so let's take the cameras over. I want to show people the level at which this should be cooking. So, not the mushrooms, the risotto. You'll see the risotto is at what I will call a low boil. That's what you want. You want this low boil the entire time. You don't want it to be at a roiling boil. You want it a little more than a simmer. You don't want it to go too quickly. You don't want it to go too slow. You do have to stir pretty frequently, or else the risotto will stick to your pot. You certainly don't want that. But you don't have to stir continuously. Just every minute or so, come over and give it a good stir. I got some more mushrooms in there. I got a little bit of burnt, but hey, who cares? The important thing is that it's not. Actually, I'm going to turn that temperature down. So now that I stirred it, it's agitated a little bit more. So, but you want it at a low boil. And you're going to want to keep an eye on it, because as one dose of liquid absorbs, you're going to want to add another dose of liquid pretty quickly. And the liquid reduces pretty quickly because two things are happening at once. First of all, it is evaporating. Obviously, there's heat in liquid, it evaporates. And secondly, the arboreal rice grains are absorbing lots and lots of liquid, because that's what they do, and that's why you use arboreal rice. So now I'm going to take my, sorry, I'm left-handed. I'm showing you the back of my frying pan. That's silly. Let's see. I'm going to try to be ambidextrous for you guys today. This is it's a little bit of a galley kitchen, a nice long galley, and beautifully appointed, but a galley kitchen nonetheless. So I'm not being that aware of spatial. So there. I guess it didn't really matter. You didn't really have to see my technique for getting mushrooms out of a pan. If you don't know how to do that, then this might be too advanced a tutorial for you. But you can just see that the mushrooms have reduced a little bit in volume. Obviously, they filled up this bowl prior to, and now they've reduced by about half. So that's great. Now we're gonna let this pan cool down for just a little bit, because I like to start my bacon in a nice cold pan. That way it reduces the risk of burning. And it doesn't have to be ice cold, but you don't want to start baking in a hot pan. Do you have a question?
Jill says, "May the fourth be with you," and Kat says she's timely by accident.
Yeah, timely by accident would be a good name for somebody's autobiography, I think. Perhaps yours, Kat. And Jill, may the fourth be with you also. I was about to do the Vulcan sign. That's totally wrong. Make the nerds so mad. I guess I could do a lightsaber. I don't know. But yeah, Star Wars. All right, so right now you'll see if Lily will come over again. I know I'm making her. I wish we had like a professional dolly so we could zoom in smoothly, but I think she's doing a really good job. Today, you'll see that your liquid is cooked down quite a bit already, and you'll see that your arborio rice, your nascent risotto is puffed up a bit. And it should keep getting puffier and gooier as you go, and your onions should slowly disappear into the warm mixture. So I'm gonna basically, once you give it a stir, and you don't really see liquid at the bottom of the pot anymore, or if you do, it disappears quickly, then you can add your next bit of liquid. All right, so I think I don't want to fuss over it too much. I'm gonna give it one more second, and then I'm gonna add 1 cup of my chicken stock. So you're gonna pour in 1 cup extra of stock at a time, right? So you did your 1 cup of wine to blanch and add flavor. Then you are going to add 1 cup of chicken stock, and you stir that in the same way. And then you add your 3rd cup of chicken stock, and you stir it in and let your risotto achieve a lava-like consistency. If you think about that slow, gooey ooze, that lava rolling down a mountain, but a delicious mountain of rice, then that's what you're looking for. You don't want it to be too loose, you don't want it to be too tight, you want it to be in that Goldilocks zone, just right. And this is just the part where I wait for a second. Okay, so that you'll see there's no liquid there in the pan. It's all either cooked away or absorbed into the rice. So now I'm going to take my 2nd cup, my 1st cup of the chicken stock or broth or bouillon or whatever you use, and just pour that in and give that a stir. And you're like Michael Finnegan, you're beginning again. Everything starts over from this point. And let's get the bacon in the pan. So this is actually 3 slices of bacon, but it was pretty long slices. I was originally going to use 2, but I said, hey, we're in self-isolation. These are tense times. Why not indulge ourselves a little extra bacon? And if this ends up being too much to put into the risotto, which it won't, I'll just put it into the next batch. So you just want to get your bacon in the pan. If you're not comfortable putting your hands into hot pans, then you can use tongs like a normal person. I will use those from this point on with the bacon, or a spatula, because the fat will be sizzling, and I'm not that tough. I just come on strong. Now I'm going to wash my hands again because I just touched raw pork. Remember, trichinosis, no cases in the United States for I think the last 100 years or so, but God knows the way that this year's going, we could be due for a comeback. So always wash your hands when you've touched raw pork, because if you're the jerk who reintroduces trichinosis, then you know that's just a bad look, right? It's like whoever brought over the Japanese murder hornets. Good job, buddy. What a year. All right, let's see. Got my bacon sizzling away. You want to cook that on pretty low heat, especially because I've got on a big burner. I put on a big burner, by the way, and used a large pan because I wanted to dehydrate a lot of mushrooms quickly. Now that I've added more liquid, my risotto has stopped its low boil, And that's not good. You want to keep it at a low boil. So when you've introduced a little cold liquid or cooler than the temperature of the pot, then you can turn your burner up again a little bit and bring it back to that boil. Just keep an eye on it. You want to keep it at that same boil that I showed you. And it's not there. Give it a little stir. Agitate those molecules, right? Distribute the heat. Do all those cool things that Isaac Newton taught you. And I'm going to get out a spatula for the bacon, because you want to be prepared for that. And I'm going to get out a little dish for it as well, so that when it's done, I can take it out of the frying pan and not just put it on the counter like a beast. One small segment of paper towel. Waste not, want not in these trying times. You never know when you're going to get paper goods again, although they seem like they're more readily available lately. So, I can think about normally when I'm making risotto, I'm doing all kinds of other things as well, preparing the rest of the meal. But right now, because I wanted some clarity for the tutorial, I'm not. So I feel like I have more downtime than I expected. Now my liquid is starting to reduce here again. You can see the top of my rice again, and it's starting to come to that low boil again, so that's good. Yeah.
Anthony says Red Sox suck, and also he loves you.
I would love to watch a baseball game. Red Sox,
Thank you, Jill.
Yeah, and I love you too, Anthony. What did Jill say?
Bless you, because I sneeze.
What?
She said bless you, because I sneeze.
Oh, gosh, I didn't even notice. I'm a bad husband. Jill, you're a much better husband than I am. This bacon's starting to curl up, so hey, I got a bacon press. If you don't have a bacon press, you should, because they're also really good for lots of other applications. Breakfast sausages, smushing down hamburgers if you want to cook them on a pan if you don't have a grill. That might be a tutorial I do later. I don't know if you've ever had my hamburgers, but they're legendary for both their intricacy, because I'm a lunatic and I grind my own meat and make my own rolls, but also for their deliciousness. So maybe a hamburger tutorial is in the future. I don't know what we're going to do next. Lily might do another baking one. While we're here at my mother's house, it might be a good idea to do whoopie pies. Not that I'm putting any expectations on it, but I'd love that. Those of you who've never had a whoopie pie, it's the official treat of Maine, and it is very sweet, but it's delicious. It's basically 2 chocolate cake cookies that are filled with vanilla cream. And it's sort of like a devil dog if devil dogs tasted really good and made you think of your childhood. Or maybe that's just me. Some people say that they were invented in Pennsylvania. Those people are agents of the devil. It's absolutely not true. Anybody from Pennsylvania? I'm sorry, but the whoopie pies are ours. And besides, it's really just Mennonites who claim them in Pennsylvania. And if you're a Mennonite and you're watching this, stop it. So, if you're a Mainer and you're watching this, you know what's up. Let's see. So, if you'll come and look, my risotto is at a nice low boil again. My bacon is, I'm sort of rotating the press because I have 2 bacon presses at home, but just one here. You have to make do with what you have. The risotto's at a nice boil. You're seeing a lot of like the starchiness is starting to get really surrounding. It's nice and soupy and thick. Oh, that's delicious. And as you go, the process is going to get a little quicker and quicker. The rice is all activated and opened up and ready to go. It's taken in all that flavor. So, especially when you're adding your 3rd cup, which I'm going to do in probably, from the look of this, between 2 and 4 minutes. Then you want to watch it pretty closely because it's going to absorb real quickly and burn off quickly too. But if your risotto is looking like that right now in the middle of your 2nd cup, and you go, oh my God, I can't believe it's going to absorb even more liquid and get even fluffier and more delicious, it will. Believe me, it's going to be a wonderful experience for you, I hope. Is anybody cooking along, or maybe we're going to do this later? I hope that some people are actually using these to cook instead of just watch me ramble while I'm making food. So tomorrow at noon, we're doing the arancini tutorial. Arancini are a great thing to do with your leftover risotto. I always make enough risotto for 4 people, and then Lily and I eat half of it. And then the next day you say, well, what do you want to do? You can't really reheat risotto. That's weird. I mean, you can, no judgment. But we don't do it. We make arancini out of it. So for those of you watching on Facebook, tomorrow at noon. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, that's just the second half of this segment, and it's going to be coming up pretty soon. I'll touch my face again. So anyway, if you've never had arancini are fried risotto balls that have a little filling. In my case, I'm going to be using Taleggio cheese because I like it because it melts well and it's pungent. Traditionally, you probably would use mozzarella. I've used Gruyere, all kinds of things. But yeah, arancini is Italian for little oranges, and they look like just little oranges to some Italian guy at some point in history. But they're nice little golden brown balls of deliciousness. Okay, I turned my back for 1 second, and my rice went from soup to thick rice. Lily, if you'll come over here and see how, I just want to show people how quickly this happens. It's not quite ready, but look at that. Look at that progress. That's how quickly risotto can happen. And that's probably another reason why it has its reputation for being a little fussy, is because you do want to pay attention to it. And you also do want to eat it. Thank you. Bacon's going fine. You do want, I'm keeping an eye on this bacon because it has a little bit higher sugar content than the bacon that I usually use from Ridgewood European Pork Store. This is Jungle Jim's Maplewood smoked bacon, which is also an excellent bacon, but I think they use a little more sugar in the cure, so it does burn a little more quickly. So you have to keep an eye on your risotto because it'll go quickly. Also, you do want to serve it right away when you are finished preparing it, which is why I'm making a separate batch for dinner tonight rather than using this one for dinner, because it sits and it gets thick and it's really difficult to reheat properly. But this batch is just going to go onto the counter to cool off, and then it's going to go into the fridge to sit overnight for your arancini, because once you've made your risotto, you do have to let it sit overnight so that everything really gels together properly before you add your other ingredients and make it into the arancini. And then there's about another hour of wait time that you're going to need once you've started preparing them, but we're going to bypass that using a little bit of television magic, because it's bad enough watching me wait for liquid to boil without edits. God knows what I would do if I had to stand outside the refrigerator for an hour just gabbing at you. Let's see. All right. So that's nice and thick. Give it a stir. You can hear it was about to get stuck onto the pot, but if you see it, I'm not making Lily come over again yet, but it didn't brown up. It's a nice, beautiful, creamy color and consistency. But I will say that stock is cooked out sufficiently now, so I'm going to. Oh, I finished my wine. So when your wine is done, it's a good sign that your meal is getting close to being finished as well. Just pour in that last cup, because I used bouillon. There's a little bit of bouillon at the bottom. It settled out over the time that we were spending together. So if that's the case, then you just want to make sure you get it in there so you get all the flavor. Like I said, normally I would use stock. Last time I made risotto, I used duck stock from a duck that I had deboned for a meal that I made for Lily a little while ago. So if you happen to have deboned a duck recently and you're making stock out of that, it makes really nice, beautiful, rich risotto. I would also use vegetable stock, that's fine. Mushroom stock, I would use regular vegetable stock or chicken stock, maybe duck stock if you have it. Fish stock would be gross, and beef stock and mushroom stock are probably too powerful, flavor-wise. But yeah, that duck, Lily and I make risotto most of the time as part of the meal that Lily has named Duck Feast, which is a pan-seared duck breast, accompanied by a dark chocolate balsamic reduction, and risotto made with wild mushrooms and duck confit, and then topped with a poached duck egg. And the risotto and whatever accompanying vegetables, either Brussels sprouts or green beans, are got there, we will cook in the duck fat. So it is duck, and more duck. If you like duck, it's a good meal for you, and maybe I'll make it for you. Let me know. Let me know if you want to see Duck Feast, because I'll be happy to make it. I might not make the risotto on camera because you'll already know how to do that. But I will show you sometime the proper way to cook a duck breast, although I'll have to do something else while that's going on if it's going to be a live show, because that's mostly just standing near a very, very cool pan and being fussy for like a half hour. As much as I like to be fussy, I don't need to inflict that on everybody. Now, you'll see that my risotto, this last cup's already, because the rice is already so fluffed up and it's voluminous, you know, the volume has expanded quite a bit. The rice should be at this point already visible. I've got a very low boil going. Obviously your boil is going to get a little bit slower and thicker as the material in the pot thickens. But as long as you have some bubbles coming up and your liquid is reducing, then you're in good shape. At this point, oh man, that is looking good. It's not really going to stick on anymore. I mean, it can always stick on. But you just want to stir it around so that it heats evenly and you get a nice consistency. You don't want any inconsistency in your texture. You want it all to be that uniform, ooey gooey lava flow. This seems like it's cooking a little higher on one side, so I am going to rotate my pan. Lift up that hot bacon press, let that grease drip down. Make sure if you are using a bacon press to keep it over your pan. You don't want to get it all over your stove. And you don't want bacon splatter all over yourself, so be careful. I get burnt frequently. Right now my arms are all torn apart, not from cooking, but from hauling trees into the woods. They were old dead mulberry trees. Whoever made up that nursery, that Pop Goes the Weasel, and was talking about a mulberry bush, I don't know what they're talking about. These are 20-foot trees, and they're bare. Oh, they're not fun at all. The bacon's almost done. Smells delicious. Is anybody still there? Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Pat said earlier that it works well for her because she likes to poke at the food while she cooks. Poke.
What works for her because she likes to poke at the food?
I think like doing something else while you make the risotto.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. I like to poke at food. I'm poking away. That's how I test the temperature on my meat, you know? I like medium rare, which is about the texture of your cheek. I know I touched my face again, but I just keep washing my hands, and they're getting dry, and it's just one finger, so I'm not doing it right now. Now, if Lily will come over here and see. This is why I'm trying to give my bacon a little bit of a hurry up. This risotto is getting to around about where you need it to be. It still has too much liquid, but you'll see that it's really gotten soft and it's gotten lava-like, and it's really pretty. And at this point, you have to keep an eye on it because it will go quickly from there. My bacon is almost all cooked. I like to get it quite crispy when I am putting it into risotto, as it gives a nice crunch and textural differentiation. But you know, some people would consider this to be done. I'm sure Megan, this is overdone for you. She likes meaty bacon. I like crispy bacon. Kathy, it's probably not going to be cooked enough for you. That's my mother-in-law. She likes bacon that is basically like wood bark. We're not going to talk about how she eats steak. Okay, so now I've just ignored my own advice and gotten that greasy. What can you do? Sometimes it's quite hot. Mine has wooden handles. Oh yeah. No, this bacon's nice and crispy. Delicious crispy bacon. I am a professional, an attempted professional musician. I have entertained people for a living for years with that singing voice, so think what you will about that. Here we go. I got my bacon coming off. Got quite a bit of bacon fat in there. Now I turned my temperature off on my burner right now because I'm going to want to throw the mushrooms in there soon. And the bacon fat has a pretty low smoke point, so it's already getting kind of smoky, and I don't want to burn anything. I just want to get those mushrooms cooked a little bit in that fat, which I will just barely have time to do because this risotto is almost done. So, well, I think this is a job for a wooden spoon at this point. It's a little too bendy for the on the spatula. When I said that things weren't really going to stick anymore, I meant when there was a lot of fluid in the pan. When it starts cooking down like this, then you're at a high risk of sticking. You want to make sure that all your risotto doesn't stick on there and your hard work doesn't go for naught, and you end up just with a bunch of burnt sadness at the bottom of the pan. Now, I got that cooled down enough so it's not smoking. Just throw your mushrooms in there, turn it on, and put it on low heat. And then just give them a little shimmy shake.
Mom is appalled by your comments about her bacon and meat preferences.
Hey, oh, actually, Kathy, I think a couple pieces of this bacon actually turned out to, ooh, that one is a little too burnt on half of it. So I'm gonna, like I said, this Jungle Jim's bacon has a much, it burns much more easily than the bacon I'm used to. So it's okay. The rest of it is pretty well done, but I like it that way in my risotto. I'm gonna put that in the trash later. I'm gonna get my cutting board back down and I'm gonna chop up my bacon. Now, it's good to season your ingredients as you go. These mushrooms have plenty of salt because they're cooking away in bacon fat, but I am gonna add some black pepper. Well, this is actually mixed multicolored peppercorns. I like a lot of pepper. So throw in your pepper of your choice. Get those mushrooms sizzling away. Oh man, that looks good. My risotto really needs some attention. There we go. You gotta make sure to stir it, stir it, stir it. It's almost done. I'm gonna take this bacon over here, get it lined up, give it a quick strong. Lola has a squeak pig, an oink pig. So for those of you who wonder what that sound is, it was very apropos that it happened while I was cutting up bacon. Lola had her little squeaky purple pig. Did you show everybody Lola?
I did on here.
We'll show them on Facebook or on YouTube too. All right, so you just get your bacon all chopped up so that it's basically bacon bits. You look at your risotto, run over. This is the time when you start being the frantic cook in the kitchen. After all the time that you spent wondering when this will ever be over, it does all tend to happen at once. I'm going to, my mushrooms, need to cook a little second more. They're getting pretty good though. All right. And Lily, you're probably going to want to come over here so we can show people how the risotto's looking and how it's all going to, because it's almost done. You'll see this is thick, it's rich, it's like lava, it's very slow. It falls slowly off your spoon. That risotto, my friends, is done. Ooh, look at that. You know, it's got a texture somewhere between rice and mashed potatoes. Now that it's done, you can turn off your heat, all right? And you want to throw in your Parmesan cheese of the amount of your preference, and just give that a stir. Stir it in. Stir it in thoroughly so it mixes in and disappears. You don't want uneven cheese distribution. That would be a nightmare. All right. Well, my mushrooms are just about perfect. So I'm going to get another little piece of my paper towel and turn off my mushroom pan. I'm going to scrape those onto this piece of paper towel because you don't want to get too much bacon fat into your risotto. Again, that'll screw up your texture. So there we go. I've remembered to turn the pan the right way this time. All right, now you just take your mushrooms, take out your paper towel, going in the trash later, and you can throw in your mushrooms. And you can throw in let's just get this off the board, onto the plate. I did a terrible job. Let's try that again. Okay, there we go.
Flora says, "Hola, Greg. Looks delicious."
Oh, thanks, Flora. I hope you're doing well. And I think it'll be delicious, I hope. I don't know. Flora remembers that delicious, and if you didn't chop it quite as well as you should have, just pull it apart with your fingers. Why not? Who cares? Throw this in here. Flora had some of that delicious risotto at English is Italian when we worked there together. You throw your bacon in. Now I'm going to wash my hands because they are bacon greasy. Just a quick wash though, because I'm going to go over here and stir all that in and then get the risotto into a receptacle and get it off the stove. I'm going to stir that in. Stir it all in so it's nice and evenly distributed. I hate when you just get a meal that's all perfect and everything's prepared, but one bite has some bacon and mushrooms and one bite has nothing. Or so take the time to finish it right, stir it in, get everything working together, get all those flavors in love with each other. I am going to put more pepper because I like pepper. You don't have to. I do. I like garlic, I like pepper, and that's the way that I am. If you're wondering what to get me for Christmas, garlic and pepper. I don't know, that's weird. Now I am going to look, I probably should have done this earlier, perfect, a little bowl to put this in.
Andrew says, "Hey, Greg."
Hey, Andrew.
And my mom said it looks delish.
I'll wait till you see it all presented in the bowl. And normally I would have warmed this bowl up if I was going to put the risotto into it straight for the dinner table, but I am not putting this in the dinner table. I am putting this in for arancini. So if you want to serve it nice and warm, always serve your warm food in warm plates and bowls, because otherwise it does not stay warm, and that's a problem. Don't put cold beer in a hot glass. Don't put hot food on a cold plate. I could use a cold beer. Okay, so. I know you can't smell this, but it smells really good. If you made some and it smells good, then that's a good sign. Oh, it's making me hungry. I have so much to do to make dinner now. Let's see. So, this is my risotto. You'll see that it's like got a nice gelatinous texture. It sticks together. It's beautiful. It's evenly distributed. It's colorful. It's festive. It's delicious. And hopefully it's a little less intimidating. I'm just going to take a bite to make sure I didn't steer you wrong. Let's see how this is. I'm ready. Oh, this is, got some mushrooms. I got some bacon. Oh, I want to eat this all right now. If this comes out exactly like this and you don't like it, then I don't know what to do for you, because this is very good risotto. Thank you all for watching. Everybody in Facebook land, hopefully I'll see you tomorrow at noon to make arancini out of this risotto right here. And everybody on YouTube, I'll see you in just a minute. That's it. Thank you very much. Everybody have a great day. Thank you. Enjoy your risotto. It's so good. All right. Hey, now I'm eating this risotto with dinner. How exciting is that? Look, I have the risotto here with a stuffed pork chop with a lemon garlic aioli that I made with my mother. Well, I don't know if she wants to be seen, but here she is. She's not a big social media person, but she is the person who taught me how to cook, so she should be seen. We have a little green salad that's nice and fresh and crisp with it. And we have a Barolo by Marigno 2011. Barolo is of course, the king of Northern Italian reds, made of Nebbiolo from Piemonte. And all Nebbiolo goes pretty well with pork. It goes really well with roasted. Pork goes well with wild boar, etc. But for our stuffed pork chops are stuffed with spinach ricotta, garlic, and some shallot. I think it'll be a pretty nice pairing. We're gonna have a great meal, and we will see you tomorrow for arancini for lunch. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye. Enjoy. Get this. It's good. It's tasty. Have a Barolo, Nebbiolo. It's delicious. One of the best wine grapes in the world. Bye. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the second half of the risotto and arancini tutorial. And today we're doing the arancini with our leftover risotto from last night. I hope that some of you made it and enjoyed it and have some left. This is about half of the amount of risotto that I made last night. If you have a full amount of risotto and you just want to make arancini, then adjust this. You can just double all the ingredients that I'm listing here. But so you have your half order of risotto, which is left over. You have one large egg. You have a scant half cup of breadcrumbs. Normally I use panko breadcrumbs. I didn't have any, but these are great. These are my mother's homemade breadcrumbs. So homemade sourdough bread. She was way ahead of the craze on that. She's been baking sourdough like a madwoman for years now. We also have some more breadcrumbs for rolling your arancini later. We have some cubed cheese. This is Taleggio. You can use whatever you like as long as it's a good melting cheese. You can use mozzarella. You can use, I've used Gruyere, all kinds of things. But I like Taleggio. It's a little bit, gives a little pungent kick. I really think goes well with the arancini. I have a large pan on the stove ready to go. That is filled with about a half an inch of cooking oil. In this case, it's peanut oil. I like to use peanut oil. It has a very high smoking point, and I sometimes, lose track of my oil and have to adjust the temperature. So it's nice for me. I'm actually gonna get that warming up right now, because this doesn't take long. All right. So first thing you're gonna do, you take your leftover risotto and just crack an egg right in there. I've been working on my one-handed egg cracking. I think that went pretty well. I almost got some shell in there, but I managed not to. I'm very proud of myself. We also have, now you just throw in the breadcrumbs. And now, before things get too messy, I always forget, I'm the kind of guy who would have exhausted horses back in the day from having them push carts all over the place. So this is just a plate that you're gonna put your arancini on when they're done and getting ready to go into the oil. So this gets a little messy. It's why I took off my wedding ring. Lily and I are still together. We're fine. We had a little bit of an epic night of drinking last night. So Lily is being a champion and fighting through her hangover to record this for us. So thank you, Lily.
You're so welcome.
But we are still fine and we're together. We're having a good time. This is also another reason why I like to make arancini. After a night that I've had risotto is usually when I have risotto, it's with a meal that I'll have with some wine, and then when I've had some wine, I like a few after dinner drinks. So this is one of my favorite hangover foods too, because it is fried and gooey and delicious. So you just want to get those so they're mixed in evenly. Your breadcrumbs and your egg. You'll see it's pretty obvious when the egg gets mixed in. You get a sort of beautiful sunshine yellow color going throughout it, and you'll feel the consistency is about even, uniform. And these you're going to manipulate quite a bit more, so don't waste too much time on that.
Jill says hi, so does Jennifer, and Dina recognizes that picture.
Oh, sure, yeah, no, this is hello, everybody. Yeah, we're here in Ohio. For those of you who missed the move, I know we were in upstate New York before. We took a quick trip down here, and here we are in my parents' lovely kitchen. So I'm gonna actually bring this over here because I'm gonna be rinsing my hands a lot because they tend to get real sticky, and you want to keep your hands wet while you're doing this so that you can so that the risotto doesn't stick to them. Now you're going to want to take the goal is to make the risotto or the arancini about the size of a ping pong ball, somewhere in that ping pong ball-ish kind of range. So get with you just eyeball what you think will be about the right amount of risotto. And smush it into a little, just a little disc, and put a piece of your cheese in there, and close it up around it. All right. And once it's sealed in, you want to make sure it's sealed in so it doesn't leak out. give it a little roll to make it a nice round ball, and that's it. It's really simple. That's one arancini. Now we're going to repeat this process hopefully 12 times. We'll see. Last time I ended up with 11, and I had to pull little bits off of the previously made ones until I could make an even dozen. It doesn't really matter. You can have however many you want. You can make 4 really big ones if you want. That would mess up the frying time, but you know, sometimes you go to an Italian restaurant and they have an arancini that's more like the size of not a little orange, but a big old orange, and I don't know. I like them a little smaller, and I find that a half a batch of risotto makes a good dozen. So this is just you know, if yours aren't coming out perfect balls right away, it's practice like anything else. You know, once you have made a few batches, you'll get the hang of it, and you get your eyeball so pretty well trained, so you get a pretty good idea of how much risotto you need in your disc to make the perfect size arancini balls. This one's a little small. The good thing about it also is if you don't get the size correct initially, it's very forgiving. You just throw in a little bit more risotto, and there you go. You have the perfect size arancini. Now my hands are sticky. I've made about 4. Looks like I've gone through about a third of the mix. I'm feeling pretty confident. Yeah, hello.
So Beaner missed the cheese, so can you tell everybody what kind of cheese again, please?
Sure. Well, this is Taleggio cheese that I'm using, but you can use any kind of cheese that melts well. So you can use Taleggio if you like a little bit of a funky kind of wash rind sort of cheese, or you can use mozzarella, which is very traditional. Or you can use Gruyere, which is delicious and gives it a little tang and melts really well. But this is Taleggio, one of my favorite Italian cheeses. All right, we are at 6. We're halfway through. Looking good. All right, I have 14 pieces of cheese here. If you were counting, so that's over more than a dozen, but I figured, you know, well, I'll always account for error, right? So, but I think that we're going to get a good dozen here, hopefully on the first try. So my oil is heating up. You just want to, I got it on low heat for right now just to like warm it. You want to keep an eye on it. If it starts smoking away, then turn it down. But here we go. If you're really obsessive, you could probably use a candy thermometer, and you want to fry these at about 350 degrees. But for me, I find that just if I start warming them up when I start making them, then start warming the oil up when I start making the arancini, then it's generally about the right temperature. Yeah, and somebody has a question?
Oh, Taylor just says she misses English's Italian arancini.
Yeah, me too. I miss English's Italian arancini. I spoke about the risotto there yesterday, and that was actually the first place I ever had arancini. It was an old restaurant that I worked at back in the day, where I met a lot of my best friends who are still my best friends. And it was a joint venture between China Grill and Todd English. Good restaurant, but long gone, unfortunately. But we ate a lot of, at the end of the day, we had an antipasti station, and we would all eat the leftover arancini and brandad, the salt cod fritters, and lamb riblets. Oh God, I ate so many lamb riblets. They were delicious, but very greasy and filling. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, great. Well, I'm actually gonna have, I think a baker's dozen here. I'm gonna have 13, which is fine for me. That's why I had the extra cheese. Like I said earlier, when I made the batch, I ended up with 11 and had to reshape it, and that's a boring process to watch me have to do. So I didn't want to do that. I maybe erred a little on the side of caution with sizing these ones. They're still a good size. I also didn't weigh out the risotto when I was separating it, so this might just be a little bit more of the risotto than I was using this morning, because I'm usually pretty good at assessing the size of these days. Well, you know what? I can probably get 14 out of that, and that'll be my 14 pieces of cheese. It was like I had a psychic premonition. So that's great. I feel very good about myself. You know, I was aiming for 12. I said 14 on the outmost, and here we are going to be with 14 delicious arancini. Now, this is the part that requires a little bit of patience, and you are going to have to put your arancini in the refrigerator for at least an hour. You can leave them in there for longer if you want. You can leave them to sit overnight if you want. I wouldn't probably let them sit more than an extra day, but definitely don't have to eat them right away. But, so these are, okay, my hands are a very sticky mess, but we'll give them a good wash this time. And get rid of these, we don't need them. Pardon me. All right, now here are my 14 arancini. And I'm gonna put these in the fridge for an hour. And I guess we'll just have to wait. Or will we? Look at that. Oh, these are the ones I made earlier. Through the magic of television, they're ready for you now. Or whatever you're watching this on, your phone, probably. So these are the 12 that I made earlier. They are about the same size as the 14, so I think that what I did was not distribute the risotto evenly. Anyway, I'll clean that up later. I'm going to turn the heat up on my oil now so that it's about medium. And you can test to see if your oil is hot enough by taking some of your breadcrumb and throwing it in there. If it starts fizzing away, then it's ready to go. This is just laying there doing nothing. So I'm going to turn my oil up just a little bit higher right now while this is going on. And then what we're going to do is individually roll each one of these arancini in the remaining breadcrumbs, and then we're going to drop them right in the oil. And they fry for about 2 minutes on the first side, and when they're a nice golden brown color, you're going to turn them over quickly and cook them for about 2 more minutes. It's only about a 4-minute cooking process, 4 to 5 minutes, and you're going to end up with a delicious little snack or a small meal. We're going to have ours with a little arugula salad I just threw together. We need some tongs. You definitely don't want to get your fingers too close to the hot oil, if this oil gets hot, which it should soon. I do need a plate, yeah. Well, a plate and a paper towel for when these come off. They're going to be delicious. So I made a little arugula salad with some candied pecans and craisins and Parmesan cheese. Got some oil and vinegar to go on that. And I also, last night when we were having the pork chops, I made some lemon aioli. I think I'll need 2 of these. And lemon and garlic aioli. And I'm going to use those, the remainder of that on these as well. And I also made some chipotle aioli. I know that it's not Italian. It doesn't matter. It's delicious. I like it. You can use they don't need a dipping sauce, but I like a little aioli or something like that on mine. Looks like that's coming up to temperature. Yeah, they're starting to fizz. It's probably going to need like 1 more minute. Maybe Lily can bring the cameras over here and we can take a look at these as they're frying. Okay, so you can see here. Probably going to want to turn on my stove hood, so I'll speak up a little. I'll just put it on low. So you have your hot oil, you have your arancini, you have your breadcrumbs, you have your tongs. You gotta click them because you're a human and that's what humans do. And then you, don't know why, then you have your paper towels ready to go for when they come out.
Taylor says chipotles are always a good idea, Taylor Tobin.
Yes, Taylor has been very agreeable about all of my unconventional choices, and I appreciate that. Thank you. And she does like some heat, some hot food. We have a tomato soup that my mother made with some Komodo dragon chilies that we think that you might be the only person who can eat it. Maybe Kat, but nobody besides you two. You're the spiciest food people that I know. I like spicy food, but I can't hack it. So you're gonna just take your arancini and give them a light dust. Oh, I can feel the ambient heat coming off that pan now, so it feels like it's a pretty good temperature. If you hold your hand about a half a foot above it, and half a foot, 8 inches, whatever, and you feel the heat, it's probably hot enough. So just give it a good dusting, roll it, get it so it's nicely covered, and throw it in your pan. Oh look, it's sizzling away. Now you're going to want that to come to about halfway mark on those arancini. That's a little below, which is by design, because by the time we put in all of the rest of the arancini, as Archimedes would tell you, the water will be displaced, or the oil in this case will be displaced, and it'll raise the level. So, here we go. This is simple and delicious, and it's almost done. Some people put pine nuts in their arancini. It's delicious. I love it, but I don't really truck with pine nuts very often anymore because I got a bad case of pine mouth once a few years ago. And if anybody's ever had pine mouth, then you know that it's something that makes you rethink what you're eating, what you're putting in your mouth, because it is nasty. For those of you who don't know, it's not anything dangerous, but it's a weird effect that some pine nuts can have when you eat them, and it's not all pine nuts, so it's a gamble, where everything tastes bitter and metallic for anywhere from a couple hours to a few months. It tastes sort of like aluminum alum, if any of you have ever used aluminum alum for a canker sore or something like that. And everything that you eat tastes like that for however long you have the pine mouth. Lily had it for about a day. I had it for about 3 weeks. And the only thing that didn't taste horrible was just plain water. Really ruined a cup of coffee, I'll tell you that much. So you want to space so yeah, no pine nuts for me. Unless I know very well the source, because apparently Italian and Brazilian pine nuts don't give you pine mouth, but only the Chinese ones. So I don't know if it's maybe something that's in the ground, or if it's something in the way that they're picked and processed. But it's very hard to find the place of origin on your pine nuts. And if you have, I guess if you go to an Italian import store, you can get the ones that you know are from Italy. They're a little pricey, but worth it if you don't want to get pine nuts, which I don't. Anyway, that's a long story about pine nuts, which is something I'm not using. So.
Taylor Torsky says that her spice level is ketchup, so the chipotle would be a little much for her.
Well, you don't have to use the chipotle. You could just use lemon aioli.
And Beaner says that some people serve them with marinara sauce, which is also true.
Yeah, marinara sauce would be very traditional, of course. But I fly in the face of tradition. So you see, those are already getting pretty golden brown. Might be a little over golden brown. I'm going to turn it down just a touch. And those are fine though. They're maybe a little bit more like a chestnut color, but they cook through pretty fast. Normally I probably don't quite take as long to put them in the pot because I'm not yakking away at people. But anyway, those are a nice shape. You see the oil is at just the right level, so it's got them perfectly covered. Pardon my sloppy tongue work. There we go. And yeah, we're just going to let those fry up for a second.
Madison says, in the words of Billy Crystal, marvelous.
Oh, thank you very much. They do look marvelous, and they're going to taste even better. I'm really looking forward to this. All I've had to eat today is one Activia yogurt, which is maybe a risk before doing a live tutorial, but so far I've maintained the integrity of my bowels. Here we go. So these are just about done. Fried away for a few minutes on one side, and it's going to be, I take them out, take a look. Yeah, those are done. Just that fast, that simple. It doesn't take long at all. It's already cooked, you know. I mean, the egg has to cook out, but it doesn't take long at all. Should have nice gooey centers from the Taleggio cheese. That one opened up a little. Oh no. Look at me. I didn't roll it as carefully as I should have. And these ones are a little dark. That's okay. They're going to taste delicious. Like I said, it's not about perfection. So they're a little bit more on the chestnut to mahogany side rather than golden brown, some of them. But I'm okay with that because the texture is great. They're beautiful. I am going to go ahead and, well actually they're really hot right now, so I'm not going to break one open because I'll burn my fingers. But you should have nice, ooey gooey, delicious, perfect arancini. And I'm gonna go eat these. And if you're watching on YouTube, then you'll see that later. And if you're watching on Facebook, then you won't. But I hope that was informative and helpful to you, and I hope that you make some arancini at home because they're delicious. They're super easy to make. Great way to use your leftovers, and now when everybody's cooking at home right now, I'm sure you have plenty of those. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks. Bye, everybody. Okay, well, I'm ready to eat. I've got my arancini. I got some both aioli that I made, the chipotle and the lemon. I got my arugula salad with the pecans and craisins. I have a San Pellegrino sparkling water. No wine today, just sparkling water. But I'm sticking with Italy. And that's it. Let's see what this arancini looks like when we smush. Oh, smushy, delicious, and you can see very cheesy, very gooey. I'm gonna enjoy this, and I hope you enjoy yours. Thank you again. Bon appetit.